I'm wearing my safari outfit, especially for you. Don't know if you can see.
Oh, I should
Got
have worn my khaki outfit. Oh,
got
that's nice.
my
Yeah.
khaki shorts on as well.
Ah, I should have put my khaki shirt on.
You should have, yeah. It's
Yeah.
too late now, Francois. It's too late.
Uh,
Here goes. Got some questions for you if you're ready.
yeah, sure. Let's go.
Cool. So, you're South African. You're from South Africa. You were born and raised there. You did your education there. You got your master's degree there. You worked as a developer there. So, what was that like? And then, what was it like compared to London?
I'll jump straight into it. I think the thing that stands out for me in South Africa, I was there for a few jobs and then I moved over here. And I think it comes down to in South Africa, it's more like a jack of all trades kind of culture where, you know, it's kind of like, we want you to do this. Can you do this? Okay, cool. I'll do it. And you kind of just jump onto any task they give you, really, which is nice because you get experience in all different fields and it definitely takes you out of your comfort zone. And I think when I came here, I realized that my CV was kind of all over the place, and people are like, "Yeah, but like, what are you? What's your profession? Like, what are you? What's your master skill? Like, what is it that you've done?" And I think that was really difficult for me to actually nail down because I I wanted to sound like, "Hey, I can do everything." And then when I came here, it was like, "Yeah, but we need you to focus on one thing. Can you tell us that one thing you're good at?" And I think that kind of, that was a very big culture change in terms of just preparing yourself.
And I mean, South Africa is on a different level, I guess, in terms of, tech to like somewhere like London, or like the US East Coast, West Coast. I mean, I presume it's, far less developed, not as much competition and all this and that.
Or the companies I worked for, at least, it was quite difficult um, to get them to invest in your learning and development. So I think it's not just the company. I think it's not just the company itself. It's a combination probably of opportunity, and then when you're in the company, having the company invest in you. Where I think here, if you're showing that you're willing to learn, you want to make a difference, you're quite keen that the culture is very much, well, why wouldn't we invest in you? Because you'll obviously bring it back to the company. If you're keen to learn and develop, it just makes sense to invest in you. Where in South Africa, it was much more of a fight, and you kind of have to fund it yourself in some cases just to get yourself upskilled. Um,
Mm.
yeah, there's other political challenges as well.
Mm.
Um, which I think one of the political challenges is definitely being just, well, for me, if I go back to my first company I joined in South Africa, I was just come out of university fresh with a lot of aspiration. Let's make a difference in the world. um, throw me the next big thing. I'm gonna take it on. And with all that keenness to learn, I I remember asking, just after I kind of made my probation, I asked our my kind of um, manager, "Oh, what's going to stop me from progressing? Like, what is the progressing? Like, what does it look like, and how do I get there?" And he basically said, well, he did say, "Your skin color is going to stop you progressing."
Mm.
And I remember, like, that day I went home and I was just like, I don't know why I bother.
What do you think about the state of inclusivity in general in the UK and in our industry and technology?
What I found within the UK was there's also a discrimination code to some sense, or at least it's a kind of a blocker. And I think that was females, in the tech industry. And also, you kind of realize this as you as you carry on and as you see, oh, okay, I'm working with 50 blokes, and there's only maybe like 5 females or something.
In the UK, you've worked for, I think, 3 companies, and you've progressed, quite well. You progressed from like developer into sort of a lead and management roles, but you've also made lateral moves to from web development into data sciences, data engineering.
I think for me, it was the whole hype around machine learning. Um, I think it's a combination of not knowing what it is, but there's a massive hype about it. I think it's like when Bitcoin kind of came along and everyone's like, oh, let's just get involved with Bitcoin. Oh, you should definitely take all your whole salary and invest it in Bitcoin. It's the future.
You know, if we had done that, we would be in a different place today, Francois.
Yeah, no, we are, and I mean, I'm one of those that's all into that. But it kind of taught me a few things, and I think the same with machine learning or data at least. I think the data world was something that you always hear people say, "Oh, big data, it's the next big thing." It's the new oil, it's the new Bitcoin, if you want to compare it to that.
In a sense, when you moved from your, I think you were a tech lead in like a back-end web dev team, you moved to being like a regular developer in the data team. I mean, that's a sideways move for something that you wanted to do, but it was also a demotion in a sense. So what's it? Is it hard taking a demotion?
Yeah, I've taken a few demotions. I think the first time I took a demotion, I was kind of fighting it. It is hard. I think it is hard. But I think I just got to a point where I need change, or you need an opportunity, and you're willing to kind of step down your ladder and put yourself out there. It's I think it's hard in a few ways. It's hard. I think the first time you take a salary cut, it's something to get used to, but understanding why you're doing it, and I think taking that risk is definitely worth it. And I've definitely, like, I'm looking back now, and I'm like, it's one of the best things I've done. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go through all that. I think what makes it challenging is just it depends also on what security you have. If you're a young whippersnapper, I mean, go for it. You've got honestly, you've got nothing to lose. I mean, you might not go out as much or travel as much, but other than that, you can take that shift. I think when you get a bit older, it gets maybe a bit more difficult when you kind of need the security. But I'd also say that companies generally are willing to, to give you the opportunity if you say, hey, I'm looking for something different, I'm looking for something new. I'd like to move laterally. And I think maybe a few years ago, this definitely wasn't possible.
And I mean, I guess the demotions that you took to make those lateral moves all paid off for you in the end, didn't they?
Yes, definitely. And I think the first demotion I took, I think I was in a different headspace. So to give some context, I moved from junior, kind of moved my way up, sorry, to a mid and to a tech lead. And when I joined a company, I asked them what's my title going to be, and the response was, well, whatever you want your title to be. And I was like, okay, well, tech lead sounds like a good title. I'll take it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad, does it?
Looking back now, I think if a company is giving titles out on the market for free, then there's obviously, it's not worth its weight in gold. And I think the illusion that I had was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm a tech lead now, and I'm picking up tech lead work, and I was a tech lead to an extent of having to foresee and pick up all the work, but in terms of teams, I mean, I wasn't, I didn't have a team under me because it was a small company, and I moved a step down, and then I had the opportunity again to work way up to team lead within the same company. And I remember having a conversation with my current team lead, or as you know, it was our current team lead. And I said to her, yeah, I've been a team lead before. And she was like, oh, tell me more about your experience. And I kind of spoke about my experience. And I was like, yeah, the only difference is I've just didn't manage people. And she laughed. And looking back now, it's like, well, there's a massive difference.
Yeah. Do you sometimes think that poor woman, what she had to put up with us? I mean, I know I feel like that.
No, I think she put up with a lot of things, but also she was probably the first real mentor I had. I don't think I've had anyone. It took me probably about 5 years to get someone that actually says, hey, we're willing to give you a shot. We'll put our trust in you. And I think that for me, just having that opportunity gave me a lot of confidence. I think it's very rare these days to find a really, really good mentor and someone that trusts in you. I think probably depending on the industry you're working in. But yeah, like I said, it took me around 5 years to find that, that one person that actually just believes in you and says, cool, run with it. I can see, they can see something in you that you don't really know.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think people say mentorship is really, really important, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges and struggles that many people have, is finding a good or the right mentor for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why also, like, I've now made a very conscious effort in the role that I'm now to first to get to know the people and settle in, as I've only been with the company now for a few months. And after that, I approached someone and asked whether they'd be my mentor. And yeah, it's such an easy thing to kind of ask someone. Like, it's not like go and buy them a coffee and have a chat. And if you see that they've got leadership or they've got something that you aspire to, just reach out to them. And I think it's such a small thing to do with such a massive gain. And even if you just do it for a few months and you try it out, and it might work or it might not work, but I think what you gain from that is so much more valuable, learning from other people's experience, than trying to do it all yourself.
Do you get imposter syndrome, and how do you deal with it?
It's I think it's like asking someone, have you ever gotten hurt in life? And it's like, well, no. I definitely, I think, imposter syndrome is something that I feel like I get every time, and I'm in a start with a new company. And well, even before I start with a new company, when I go for the interview stage, and when you sit in your probation phase, it very much creeps up on you. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I, contributing enough? Are they happy with me? Am I going to get fired? And I think especially for me, because there was one company where I didn't pass my probation. And
you're kidding? No way.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. I wasn't experienced enough.
Wow, I'm shocked.
The guy handled it very well. I think he wasn't just kicking me out the door and say, we never want to see you again. He handled it really well. Like, I think he explained to me and said, like, they're hoping they were hoping I've had a bit more experience, but he's going to recommend I look at these things. And I think because it was a small company, so you in a small startup company, you're drafting hard because it's a startup. Whereas I think with a bigger established company, it's maybe a bit easier to to almost like take your time to fit in, or like kind of get your skill sets up at a reasonable pace. And I think I've also learned a lot about the different types of industries, like big companies and small companies. And it's also showed me that, it showed me how to handle a situation if someone ever doesn't have the experience. Like, how would I handle it? I definitely wouldn't give them the boot. If it's up to me, I would always try and, I think, encourage them to focus on one area and get good with that. And I think it comes down to confidence. And I think the only way to gain confidence is repetition, learning, experience, learning. And the best way to learn, I think, is to teach others, because that really tests your ability and skill sets, and see if you understand the concepts. So I've had the opportunity, and through the grace of God, I think, that I was able to move from being a lecturer to developer, to a tech lead, back to developer, to data world, and now working my way up again to a team lead. And I think if you're naturally good with something, you'll naturally evolve into that position, where a lot of time I've also thought with myself and say, I really want to be the best, C# developer or Python developer, and I want to write functional programming, and I want to be quick with it, and I want to be, and I've definitely I gave my hand at it, and I've tried it a lot, but there are some things that I'm just not as good as, and there are some things that I think I naturally evolve better into. And I think for me, I found it was leading a team and having that leadership capability. And I thought it for a lot of time, because I was like, no, I want to be hands-on. I always want to be hands-on. So it took me a while to realize that. But I think, for most people, you'll naturally keep evolving into the position that you're good at.
And you have, led a lot of other developers. You've mentored devs. You've been on promotion panels. You've seen a lot of CVs, done a lot of interviews, said yes and no to a lot of candidates. Is there any general sort of advice, anything you've picked up in the last few years?
I think for me, it probably comes down to it's the same as when having a kid. It's not about you anymore. It's and you realize that, and I think it's about management position as well. It's not about you anymore. It's about being humble, and it's about carving opportunities and removing roadblockers and helping others, and helping others thrive in the best way they can, and seeing if you're able to identify their skill sets, identify their passions, and if you're able to work with it, if you're able to, it's like I think a lot of people, I know everyone's got a certain skill set and a certain passion and things that are naturally good at. And I think it takes a certain leader to be able to identify that and be able to know how to work with it. So I would probably start there to say, be humble, see how you can help others, and don't take things personally, because I think a lot of the challenges with a management position is that you have a lot of shots fired at you because you're not actively developing. So, it's a different way of contributing, and you only, as a developer, you don't realize that. You only realize that once you move into a management position, you then get the perspective of, okay, wow, what is this role really about? But before that, as a developer, you kind of look at your manager and think, what work are you really contributing today? Like, what are you contributing? And that's at least how I thought, and I think you can't, I think as a manager, you kind of have to realize that. You have to realize that there are people that don't understand the value of your role just because they've never been in that role. And yeah, I think also as a manager, make an effort to see what work people are doing. Like, go sit next to them, say, hey, let's show me how to code, or show me, I'm going to give my hand at this, and put yourself out there, because I think that also builds trust to another degree. And I think a lot of time we're sometimes worried about what are people going to think, what are people going to say, are they going to judge me for not knowing this or knowing that. And I think once you get to a point where you're comfortable with saying, I don't know, like, would you mind explaining this to me, or, oh, okay, I didn't realize that, could you send me some links? And I think once you're open for that, and once you can act openly in a group conversation at work, say, oh, I don't know, doesn't matter your position, and you're able to learn from others, I think that's when you really build trust. And I think that's when you'll really thrive in your position. Doesn't matter your role.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. And you're a wonderful person to work with. I hope we get a chance to work again in the future sometime.
And it was really good working with you. Like, I think as well, I think you don't realize it, but a lot of the things that I've learned was, like, you were the first person that kind of came to me and said, hey, we're gonna do some development now. Come sit down. I'm gonna show you some front end development. And I was like, well, I don't know any front end development. I know what CSS stands for, but as a backend developer, I think that also, that helped me a lot, was seeing how you get out of your comfort zone and get people to sit next to you and just show them and teach them. And yeah, I think a lot of what I've just said as well today is, that experiences also came from you literally be the first person while I was still in probation, when I was having my imposter syndrome. You definitely helped me with that. So yeah, I think a lot of what I've learned and know today is also thanks to you teaching me. So thank you.
Thanks. I was waiting for you to say that. I was wondering why it was taking you so long.
Sorry.
Jeez, I mean, finally. Tell me, Francois, the joke of the show.
What kind of shoes do ninjas wear?
Tell me, Francois, what kind of shoes do ninjas wear?
Sneakers.
There Wonderful. That's awesome. I'm happy now. That was a great, terrible joke of the show.